Someone asks a quiet question. Pause. This is a measurement of our autonomy, a silent test to see how much we will edit ourselves just to stay safe. We laugh too quickly, explain too much, speak too fast, like some hidden part of us already knows something dangerous is happening beneath the conversation. Because before we even spoke, they read us before we spoke. Humans notice emotional reactions faster than words, logic, or personality. Most conversations are not only conversations, they are emotional measurements. Humans quietly study confidence, insecurity, patience, emotional control, and boundaries. That is why tiny moments suddenly feel heavy. A delayed reply, a dismissive joke, an interruption that seems strangely intentional. These moments seem accidental, but they are not. Each uncomfortable pause, each dismissive reply is a quiet measurement of how much pressure we absorb before we react. And we react before we realize. We soften our voice, shrink our posture, edit our truth, all to prevent a rejection that has not yet arrived. Because we have been trained to read silence as a verdict. A pause becomes judgment, stillness becomes rejection, and we begin preparing a defense before any attack arrives. The freeze response is not a weakness. It is a conflict between authenticity and safety happening inside us at the same time. One part of us wants to express ourselves honestly. Another part desperately wants a connection to remain emotionally stable, no matter the cost. That is why we absorb small cruelties quietly. We let boundary violations pass, not because we are weak, but because losing connection feels more urgent than keeping dignity. People rarely hear insecurity directly. They feel it leaking through nervous energy, rushed explanations, and emotional overreaction. Ironically, the harder we work controlling how others perceive us, the more transparent our anxiety becomes. The mask itself becomes the loudest message in the room. Calm people do not rush emotionally. They do not panic when misunderstood. And that emotional stability changes every interaction. Many of us were taught that approval means safety. That acceptance protects us from rejection, humiliation, conflict, and abandonment. So, without noticing it, we begin editing our personality constantly. Softer opinions, smaller boundaries, safer emotions, and gradually, authenticity becomes secondary. We no longer speak to connect, we speak to protect. The conversation stops being real, and we stop being ourselves inside it. But here is the uncomfortable truth. The real problem is not that people test us. Humans naturally study reactions. The deeper problem is not only that we face invisible tests, it is that we have quietly accepted them as legitimate. That somehow, but we also owe others a performance of ourselves. Because deep down, many of us believe acceptance equals emotional survival, and that belief quietly controls our behavior every day. We become agreeable versions of ourselves, trying to buy emotional insurance from rejection and uncertainty. That is why disrespect becomes confusing. We notice red flags clearly, but uncertainty feels more frightening than emotional pain. Manipulative people understand this instantly. They rarely attack first. They measure tolerance first. One tolerated disrespect silently teaches people how much self-respect we are willing to sacrifice to keep the connection alive. This is how autonomy is stolen. We begin running two versions of ourselves, the one feeling and the one performing. Eventually, the effort of the performance consumes the reality of the person. This is why the mind begins testing itself. Before entering the room, we run the simulation, anticipating judgment before any conversation has even started. Eventually, anticipation starts controlling reality itself. Neutral situations begin feeling emotionally threatening automatically. A short reply feels personal. A delayed answer feels suspicious. Small changes suddenly feel emotionally catastrophic. And the more emotionally reactive we become internally, the easier we become to guide externally. Because the mind is constantly afraid of losing approval, struggles to stay grounded under social pressure. Everything changes when approval stops feeling like survival. Silence becomes less frightening, boundaries become less guilty. For the first time, disagreement becomes emotionally survivable. We stop panicking every time tension enters the room. This is where the dynamic shifts. Calmness becomes a quiet kind of power. Not because we are winning the test, but because we have stopped being a measurable target. We finally recognize the social pressure not as a threat to our survival, but as a mirror reflecting our own need for safety. We stop performing, we start observing, The real prison was never the test. It was the belief that passing it determined our worth. Once that belief dies, it doesn't matter that they read us before we spoke.